Hey, this is AV Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com. In this review, I will be highlighting the transformation, special features, and other notables of the VF-1S Super Valkyrie Roy Focker special set from the 1982 anime series Super Dimensional Fortress Macross. I am highly privileged and honored and thrilled to be presenting this toy to you because it is easily one of the foundations of my collection as it exists today, which started... I got this Christmas 91, I believe. 91 or 92, something like that, from Merry Toy Go Round. It has been through a lot. It has been to Pluto and back. It has been to Mars, the asteroid belt, and it's even dealt with some Zentradi malcontents. Okay, this thing followed me everywhere, and I took it everywhere I possibly could. This is one of the treasured pieces. So what you're seeing here is a battle-damaged version. This is a case of, Ava, how the hell could you possibly think of putting a fingerprint on this thing? This thing is expensive today. It was probably about, $50-60 when it came out in 1984. Today it would be, I saw one selling on eBay, a complete set in near pristine condition for about $500. It was released in 1990 by Bandai. Who purchased the rights to the toy after Takatoku Toys, who originally designed it. They fell through. Their company fell through after Macross ended, and so this is the version that was produced by Bandai after they purchased the rights to the toys. And so we're starting out with the first of the three forms, which is called simply Fighter Mode. The cockpit does not open or close, but it does allow a glimpse of the interior. The wings they ratchet, they don't ratchet, they snap a little here and there. Like I said, the joints have become worn over time, so they don't really ratchet like they used to. But they can both fold backwards for its kind of supersonic flight form. The laser cannon turret underneath can turn side to side a bit. It can turn a bit more if the cannons are twisted out of the way. And you'll see very quickly these cannons don't fall, ironically. And then the die-cast metal landing gear. These back landing gear actually have springs attached to them, which is actually kind of interesting because the front one doesn't. You just pull these out. And here we go with the transformation. Takatoku Toys was one of the biggest problems with the Valkyrie design is how the legs go from here to down here with no space in between when it's in Battroid mode. To this day, this is 2009, filmed in 2009, this remains a problem. Model and toy companies, those few that are still licensed to produce them, still have that problem. That, they'll, with the various scales, this is 1/55 scale, by the way, some would completely replace the nose and put a shorter one in that had some ball and socket joints sitting here. You'd have to take the legs off and manually just reattach them. Some would have an accessory clip that would just snap on there and would get wedged in. Well, Takatoku Toys was one of the first to figure out how to do this without separating the legs. What they did, you can see there's a pivot point here, and then there's die-cast metal bar. You can see it here. And it is at this point which rotates the leg. And that is now in the series and the movie, in official line art, there's a pair of hydraulic pistons which come from underneath here and swing it down, and then when the leg gets down here, it lets go, and the pistons fold back up, and then it just the air intake just attaches to a joint which pops out of here. Well, of course they couldn't do that, so they've got these metal joints in here. So that's how Takatoku Toys, or TT for short, solved the problem. And you'll notice that you don't fit the arms in perfectly straight. You actually rest them on the outside. So here it is, kind of fit in perfectly, and here it is. It's actually intentionally meant to be loose there. Intentionally meant to be loose so that the legs can fold back, and then these, I don't know what these are, laser cannons or something, they can bump up against that, and it won't be tight. I mean, you could do it, but it forces it. And then the hands, a lot of toys and models do this, just push down on it and it snaps into place. And that snaps into place. One of the mistakes I made when I was younger is that the tails, the V-tails, weren't quite V-shaped. I thought they stuck out a little more. So there's nothing to stop the tails. It's just kind of a pressure point that stops there. And you can see that this clip here, this kind of J-shaped clip in here, broke off on this side. So, oops, wrong side. Of course, putting it back, I have to be extra careful. That folds down just like that. And you get the Gerwalk mode, which stands for Ground Effective Reinforcement of Winged Armament with Locomotive Knee Joint. Here's where posability comes into play. The biggest giveaway for the TT design was that you can see the arms at rest stick out diagonally, and again that's because of the way the joint, the transforming joint in there works, as I showed you earlier. So it doesn't fold down any further than that, because you can see the air intake is being forced inwards. So you could point it downwards, but it just forces it. But otherwise, they just behave like normal, just normal arms. And then they also twist outwards. That was awkward. Okay. The legs, unfortunately, while the hips can push it forward that far, the knees cannot bend any further forward. So you can't have the legs face a full 90 degrees forward. And the other thing is, because the feet are tied in together with each other, and the technology of the toy technology at the time, the ankles cannot shift forward and backwards. So you're always going to be limited. You always have been limited by the hip joint there and there. Now, I mean, if you want to, oops, that's just age talking there, folks. You want to, you could make the legs straight, but officially they're supposed to tilt backwards like this. Another official variation of the Gerwalk is you can have the V-tails open like that, or you can have it with the V-tails open and then the arms positioned under here. With the shoulders in place there, you notice the wings, this is open all the way, but you'll notice the shoulders actually push the wings backwards a little. So, you know, your wings will always be a little tilted back. The right hand is open, but the left hand is not. So, included in this set is a gun pod. Now, unfortunately, I have lost both the missiles, the projectiles that came with this. It was cute. I remember the projectiles that came out of here were about an inch long, and they actually looked like the missiles that the Valkyries would hang on to. It was pretty cool. And what you do is you press on this additional kind of sensor pod up here, and it just shoot one at a time. You just set this in like that, and there it is holding the gun pod. a Gatling cannon. That's where I was first introduced to that phrase. Another iconic mecha design in anime. Now we'll be getting into the third form, which is the Battroid mode. Not a Battloid, it's a Battroid mode. And here it is, the legs. Maybe I should show you, yeah, the legs doing what it is they do best. There's a pin here, there's a spring-powered pin on either side, which fits into a small divot right there. You can hear that click very nicely. Stay. The arms. And keep in mind the way the arms shift in and out, yeah, that's kind of changed too. Sometimes toy and model designers used to actually pull the arms off and stick them on there, or extra joints would be provided, or you'd actually attach them to clips on the air intakes. But just again, Takatoku was one of those. Takatoku Toys was one of those who came up with a practical application of these die-cast levers in here. This folds down. That's not supposed to go yet. And then up here, this is actually an air brake on the fighter mode, if you want to think of it that way. Turns around, fits in there, which makes room for that. And you see the clip here goes into the hole there. Again, age talking as I do this. Pull this up. This ratchets into place. Fold the wings together. I'm going to point the camera down so you can see it. Something else that Takatoku was not able to complete or completely incorporate into the design is the cockpit cover, the armored section there. So what they did is they provided a two-pronged cover accessory. I have no idea where the original came from. And what you do is you just slip it up in there, oh so carefully, until the clip just shows up in there. Now you can see here the die-cast bars that hold the legs together. In the in the anime version and most more posable models and figures, these bars would not be here, and the legs would actually be a little further away from the chest. But, like I said, this was one of, if not the first practical way to make the Battroid mode fully transformable without disconnecting anything, with the exception of that little clip there. Most of the posability you've already seen, I've already gone through with the arms. Notice now, this is the front view. If you can imagine, the nose coming out this way, you can see that the arms are now, well, yeah, for the Gerwalk mode they were pointed outwards, but you can see now they've been lined up correctly here. What they don't do, however, is twist in and out. That's just the restriction of the toy. The head is nice. It's always nice to have head posability, and then the laser cannons can point up and down. Now with age, mine have just, the friction just isn't there anymore. There's actually a die-cast bar that runs between the cannons there. One thing you could do, even though the Valkyrie toys, the the 155 scale Valkyries, they didn't come with hard points on the wings, you could still open up the wings, and then this thing, would stay open and close. I think there may actually be a variation where the V-tails are open in Battroid mode, but it's either very rare or I'm just kidding myself. That feels like that. And also note that this bar, or this, I'll say this blast shield here, would actually be quite a bit longer, would come to about here, because it would actually cover up the wings a bit more than it is now. But that, again, that's just the limits of the toy, so whatever. You'll notice on the arms, both on the back and on the front, are, again, more holes. What would happen is, and again, I don't have it, it's been lost to time and space, probably lost around Jupiter or something. What they had was an additional plastic accessory that would just clip on there, and then you could slip the gun pod into there, and it would actually hang onto it. Now, the reason they did that is because, and you could do it in Gerwalk mode, of course, the reason they did that is because in fighter mode, the undercarriage, which forms the arms, is where the gun pod would hang out, and this would be its orientation. But unfortunately, for the Takatoku Toys design, there wasn't enough space or the capability of slipping the gun pod in there. Additionally, the gun pod would bump up against the ground, and the landing gear would not have been able to hold it up correctly. Interestingly, despite the animation, the legs actually do bend at this point here. All toys, all models have always done it from there. So even though the animation shows it bending the hip from there, it's actually bending from down here. So just, trust me on that. And you don't get any side-to-side motion, but you can get the knee and hip to bend 90 degrees both places. Oh yeah, if you want to be really weird, you can do that. So, which is something else that this toy, which some models and toys were able to overcome, but this one could not. So, and this was the standard VF-1S toy, or the standard Valkyrie toy. And for those of you who are new to the Macross franchise, the easiest way to tell the VF-1S is the head design. It's got 4 laser cannons, and then it's got the rounded visor on it. So that's how you identify the VF-1S model. And so this was the basic set that was released, regardless of the paint or the head or whatever variations that you had. This is the basic model of the Macross VF-155 Valkyrie. So this is everything you got, and then you got the clip and the 5 projectiles. So very respectable toy, very well constructed.
「マクロの空を貫いて」「地球を打った雷は」「我ら幼い人類に目覚めてくれと放たれた」「マクロスマクロス」惜しくたった若者は愛する人をかばいつつ旅立つ日々を戦い開く